Hello and welcome. I'm Ryan O'Donnell, co-founder of the O'Donnell Group, and this is Straight from the Hip. Today I want to share with you guys my thoughts on Opportunity Zone funds and Opportunity Zone investments. They've been in the news a lot lately. They've been around now for about 14 months. We spent a lot of time studying these, really back in early 2018. I would kind of consider myself a quasi-expert on these. So you might ask yourself, well, why haven't you brought them up in the past? I'm still uncertain how they work and whether the benefits are that great. That being said, we have set several of these funds up for clients. We have made investments into Opportunity Zone funds. But again, the IRS is still coming out with language on how these things actually work. So let me give you a brief overview on these. In early 2018, I guess late 2017, Congress passed the tax overhaul package. And as part of that package, there was a part of that created these opportunity zones. And essentially what the government did is they designated certain tracts of land in every county that qualified as an opportunity zone. And what the initial language said was that if you made an investment into these opportunity zones, it gave you two different tax benefits. Number one, if you had recognized a gain in the last 6 months, whatever gain you recognized and invested into this fund, you could defer for 7 years. Number two, if you held the fund or held that investment for 10 years, all of the gains were tax-free. So it got a lot of people thinking, including me, wait a second, if I have a client who sells a stock and realizes a gain, or sells a property, or sells a business, and has a huge gain, all we have to do is reinvest that gain into an opportunity zone, into a piece of property located in one of these zones, and then we get tax deferral for 7 years, and we get tax-free benefits if we sell the property, if we hold the property for at least 10 years. It sounded phenomenal. So we got into these and we started looking more and more, talking with attorneys, talking with other experts. And the problem is, yes, you get to defer your gain defer the gain for 7 years, but you have to have proceeds elsewhere to pay that gain. Number two, you have to substantially improve these properties. And that language is roughly 70% of the purchase price. So if you purchased a property for $1 million, you'd have to put $700,000 back into the property within a 3-year period of time. It's not as easy as it sounds, especially if the building is not ready to be demolished or completely renovated. And number two, you have to hold it for 10 years, which isn't a big deal, but trying to figure out whether it's going to be a good investment after substantially improving it is a lot harder than you might think. So, and in addition to that, they're still updating and changing the language and the regulation on how these things actually work. So just to give you an example, walk you through a numbers example. If you were to sell a piece of property in early 2019, so let's say January 1st, you sold the property for $2 million that had a $1 million basis. You would theoretically owe tax on that $1 million of gain. But if you invested that $1 million within a 6-month period of time into a piece of property located in an opportunity zone, you could defer the tax owed on that $1 million for 7 years. Now in the next 3 years, you have to put another $700,000 back into that property. And if you do that, everything's good. 4 years later, we're now 7 years after the initial investment, you owe the federal income tax owed on that initial gain. As long as you have the money to pay that, you're good. If you hold the property for another 3 years and sell it, whatever profits or proceeds you get are 100% tax-free. So in my example, we bought the property for $1 million. We added $700,000 to it. Now our basis is $1.7 million. Now I'm excluding depreciation, so just bear with me. It's a very basic example. But if I were to sell the property then for $2 million, I'd have a $300,000 gain that would be 100% tax-free. That's pretty powerful stuff. So, yes, they can make a lot of sense. Yes, they're still changing a lot of the language and some of the regulations. So the jury's still out on what the final product's going to be here, but can they make sense? Absolutely. Do they make sense for everybody that has a gain? Not necessarily. If you have questions, by all means, give us a call. Send us an email. We'd love to have a conversation, sit down and chat about these, see if they might make sense, and share with you a little bit more about what we know. Again, I'm Ryan O'Donnell, co-founder of the O'Donnell Group. Thanks for watching.